Border States is a simple, quick, very well produced war game representing the American Civil War and really stressing the point of war being an enterprise in which we use violence in order to acquire political objectives, because here the two players will control the North and the South, the Union and the Confederacy during the American Civil War. And the idea is that you're trying to gain military victories in the military area of the board in order to impress the undecided border states. And we got Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Missouri. The point of the game is indeed to win military victories that will give you those cubes, and those cubes will allow you to pull these markers towards your side of the board. 3 states start as perfectly neutral, and Delaware is leaning towards the Confederacy and Missouri towards the Union. When a control marker goes all the way to your side of the board, that's an influence marker, goes all the way to the control side, all the way of the board, it's locked. Now you control the marker, it cannot be moved back again, but if it's here or in the center, it can still move back by your opponent. You win the game by having control markers of 4 different colors, so that would be victory, or any 5 control markers, and that's it. That's it, win the game. That's what you're trying to do. If there's a tie there at the end of a turn, then there are several tiebreakers. And the game can last up to 5 rounds, during which, again, we'll try to do what I just explained. To do so, we're gonna use our generals, represented by these cubes here. You start a round with 4 generals available to you, and with further generals being placed there in a line like that, and they are shuffled randomly, so you place them randomly. That's important because each turn starts with you receiving a new general from your recruiting line, and you can choose one on either side, all the way to the left, all the way to the right of the recruiting line. So I could choose Sherman or Grant. Not a bad choice. Each player has a presidential card. You can use it once per game, so you flip it face down as a reminder to use the power, and the president allows you to recruit a general not from the center, not from the edges of the recruit line. But you know what? I'm perfectly happy with Sherman. Now, these generals have a number printed in the top left corner that represents their initiative. We'll see what that means. And also banners that indicate the theater of operation, theater or theaters where they can go and or send troops. So Sherman can lead operations in Theater 1 and 2, Meade in 2 and 3, and so on and so forth. And of course, some pretty tough generals can go to more places than others. At the beginning of each round, we draw 3 cards from this deck here. As you can see, each card has a number of slots plus a number here that indicates the intensity. And so here I already set up the game for round 1. We place these 3 cards next to these areas. There will be 3 theaters of operation available in each round. Here we got Shiloh, Gettysburg, and Fort Sumter. After we place those cards there, we look at the intensity number, which would be 1 there, and we draw a number of influence cubes from this bag equal to the intensity plus 2. And that's why Fort Sumter is 0 plus 2 is 2, Shiloh is 1 plus 2 is 3, and so on and so forth. Again, these are the cubes that we want to take control of. Each theater of operation has 2 fronts. You have to think of these 2 lines as separate. So this is one front, this is one front. This is one front, this is another front. That's also feels kind of counterintuitive. Also, as the players are sitting on the 2 sides of the board, you need to disperse yourself of the idea that this is my front and that is your front. It's not like that. Players can place cubes, generals on either side, as we will see. Another thing, you have cards that will allow you to use special effects and abilities, and the rulebook says that you can use them or not. I played the game with and without the cards. It's just two variants, and I find them to be equally interesting and valid. Oh no, I already gave a bit of a spoiler here. The main mechanic of the game is this. Each round representing a year of the war will have 3 turns. Each turn, again, you receive a new general from the edges of your recruit line, unless president. And then you will make a stack. You will choose 2 of your generals and you will place them one on top of the other, just like so. Both players will commit to a stack, will commit to operations simultaneously and secretly. Then we reveal them. The top commander will use their initiative and the theaters of operation. First, players will place their cubes on the board in order of initiative from lower to higher. So if this is the situation, these are the stacks that the players prepared. Then the Union goes first with Sherman, and then we got Lee. The banners of the leading commander that you place on top of the stack tell you where you can place your cubes. Here, theaters will be 1 and 2. That means I can place the 2 cubes that I selected for that turn in 1 and or 2. And the one that I revealed face up goes face up. The one that I kept face down at the bottom goes there. As simple as that. And suppose that my opponent decides to place their 2 cubes like that. Oopsie, that should be face down, and like that. But again, they can be in the same spaces. As long as you place them, see, starting from that arrows, you fill up all the spaces closest to the arrow first. So right now, if somebody's gonna place a cube there, a general there, it cannot be there. They need to fill that up first. And so as you can see, we're working on both fronts at the same time. We repeat this procedure for 3 times, so that ideally each player will have 6 cubes there. Why do I say ideally? Because there may be game effects that prevent you from placing a cube, or should I say a general there. There are also 2 special kind of things. One is called the ambush block. Each player has 1. The initiative is 0, so they always go first. And their banner, meaning where they can go, is a copy of the banner that was played by the opponent. So if this is the case, I played this cube on top of my stack to decide where to go. That's the cube that the opponent placed there, so I can go only to theater 1. This other cube is called the siege, and the siege has initiative of 1, can go to a lot of places, but with the restriction that when you place a siege on top, then both cubes must go in the same place. You cannot split them. The ambush cube also has another interesting idea that it destroys a cube orthogonally adjacent to it when we reveal things. So we play 3 turns in which we prepare stacks of 2 generals, and we place them there again until ideally we're gonna have 4 generals, 6 generals there. 3 are gonna be face up and 3 are gonna be face down. Booyah. It may look like this. Then we start resolving the confrontation. And yes, of course, again, cards with game effects that may do things as you place the cubes. But at the end of the round, of that phase of the round, I should say, it's time to resolve things. Oh, you may wonder, what if players have the same initiative? Who goes first? There's this token. Initiative token. Whichever side has that up, so gets that, wins that tie, and then you flip it to the other side. But now again, you want to know. At this point, we reveal all of the cubes. Then we look at the 2 fronts. Remember, these count as separate fronts. I wish maybe they were divided graphically a bit better. Of the two fronts, only one will actually matter. Only one will take the headlines. I guess people didn't have long attention spans back in the day either. And we total all the initiatives and we see which is the one that would impress the country the most. For example, this front has a total of 0, 2 minus 2. Again, the minus 2 actually very important precisely because they dampen the impact of a certain front. This is the front has 3. So this is the one that matters. So the two front, you see the one that matters. And within that front, the player with the most, in this case would be the Union, wins that front. Pretty neat, huh? And then they get cubes. The other side may or may not have a presence there. And if they have a positive presence, meaning they are there and their value is 1 or more, they may also get cubes. If a front only has 2 cubes, then the winner takes all. In this case, the Union takes all. Suppose that this is a front that had more than that, then the winner would take 2, and the other side that has a positive presence, although the loser will take 1. And the same thing, you also get a consolation prize if you have a positive presence, even when you lose, if a battle has a lot of intensity. So that's how we do that. We resolve one, then we go to the next. Again, we reveal all of the blocks. Let's see what happens here. Oh, the ambush. Ooh, that's gonna hurt Lee. Because the ambush blocks will remove an orthogonally adjacent block. Incidentally, if you don't have an enemy block orthogonally adjacent to you, the ambush block destroys one of yours. I guess that was a major friendly fire incident, or in any case, you messed up with logistics, and that's what happens, which happened to me, by the way. And definitely I want this block to remove Lee from there. Now, that being said, this front has a total intensity of 1, not super interesting. This one has an intensity of 5. The Union wins there, so the Union will take the most cubes, but the Confederates have a positive presence, so they also get a cube from there. So players will acquire cubes during this phase, and after all the cubes have been assigned or removed. If there is a theater where both fronts have the same value, then it's inconclusive, no one gets the cubes. But in most cases, somebody will get some cubes, and so after all fights have been resolved, it's time to move our cubes, and you will get a number of steps to move influence markers in your direction equal to the differential between your cubes and that of the opponent in the same area. For example, here, the Union gets a step in this in Missouri, and so I could choose to move that one there. Or I could choose to move this one here, which may just be a better move because I love to lock initiative, to lock control when I can. In Kentucky, actually, nothing happens because both players have the same. Here, suppose that, again, here I got 2 to 0, then I get 2 steps, and so I could do like this, 1, 2, or I could do 1, 2. This is how it works. So each year, again, you got, each year, you have 3 turns in which you will form your stacks of generals, reveal, send them on, one face up, one face down, repeat that 3 times, resolve the battles, assign the cubes, use the cubes to possibly, hopefully, pursue your political objectives, and continue like this until one of the players has achieved the victory conditions of the game. If neither player wins by the end of the last year of the war, then the player with the highest number of control markers on their half of the board wins the game. Or I should say influence markers, because for that tiebreaker, you don't have to control to win that tiebreaker. Border States is part of this trend of simple, light, well-produced war games that play in 30 minutes, an hour tops, and that we have had in the last couple of years. And I like a lot of those. Red Flag Over Paris, Fort Sumter, 13 days, 13 minutes. Since you asked, Dynasties, which is not so recent anymore, but to me is like the progenitor of this style, and still to this day, one of my favorite games ever. And again, of this philosophy, 300 is probably one of my favorites also. And Border States. Border States is one of my new favorites in the style of very light, simple games that still feel like they are about history. And maybe this one, it's really borderline. If you remove one little detail, it would feel too abstract. Gettysburg, Shiloh, all of those theaters, they're abstracted into how many slots they have, how many cubes they yield. The historical flavor of the historical forces are represented in cards, card effects. The generals and the forces are perfectly symmetrical. So it straddles, it walks a really thin line there between abstract and still feeling historically relevant, but I think it does. I still felt like this is a game that again I could use in a class that if I when I teach classes about military history to show, if nothing else, again this point of war as a pursuit of political objectives by other means. And in terms of gameplay, it works very well. Incidentally, also again, many of these light war games of the last decade or so, they're card driven, so it was really nice to see a different mechanic there. Secret simultaneous selection of action, rock, paper, scissors, Sherman, Lee, because that's the idea. But with so many interesting details there, so many nuances, because you have a decent pool of generals available every time. By spending your one-time presidential action, you even have more flexibility there, but it's limited. And then, of course, you can choose among those generals which ones you're going to use and the order in which they go. And at the beginning of a year, you'll feel pretty profligate about it. The world is your oyster until, now I'm stuck with these second-rate generals that can only go to a specific place and is not what I expected. So the setup, the preparation for the battles is super interesting because you try to read the opponent, you try to see what they are gonna do, you see where they place their cubes, which maybe is not where you expected. They start piling up things in a single theater of operation, and then it's up to you to decide if you want to invest massively there also, or try to sneak a quick victory somewhere else without a lot of expenditure. It's all about reading the opponent and figuring out what they may have, what they're gonna do, why they place things in a certain way, in a certain order. But again, such a simple idea, which is select two cubes. The order matters a lot because one will be revealed, one will be secret. If you put Grant or Lee out there early on, chances are that the opponent is gonna send the ambush cube to destroy them. Don't let the opponent know where your best generals are. But then I'm putting the one I'm revealing is in charge of a theater of operation only, which is not where I want Lee or Grant to go. So many interesting choices and decisions distilled into such a simple mechanic of choose two cubes and the order in which they go. One is revealed, one stays face down. Excellent. This is just an incredible example of elegance in gameplay. Now, one thing, a lot of us like to play war games solo, and as a matter of fact, that's how I play most of my war games. This one really would not work. I can't imagine a bot that would create that mind game, guessing game, bluffing game that this one does. But still, I hope that there is somebody around you that you can play games with, especially because a game this simple, you can probably play with a larger pool of friends of yours than some of the more complicated war games out there. This, you could play with a young player, easy peasy. You could play with a casual gamer. It is simple enough to be played also by non-seasoned war gamers, and yet at the same time it has such a depth of gameplay, such incredible elegance and subtlety. This has to be one of the games that I enjoyed the most in quite a while. And when it comes to wargaming, again, it's an achievement to me how you can create a game about historical events that is still so simple, that is still so approachable. So I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy with Border States.